Hi, it's Dennis Daly. If you ever visit the Alamo, you may be surprised that it's right smack dab in a busy neighborhood in downtown San Antonio, Texas. But it wasn't like that a couple of hundred years ago. When I visited there, my tour guide was Ann Burney, who told me that the people holding safe at the Alamo were an eclectic group of well-educated people who wanted to go back to an earlier form of government.
The settlers here wanted to go back to that 1824 Constitution originally. And when the rebellion broke out here, Santa Anna sent his brother-in-law, General Martin Prefecto de Cos, up to San Antonio to put down the rebellion here. While he was here, he took this old abandoned mission and he beefed up the outer walls of it, and he tore down what was left of the roof of the church in order to build a cannon ramp to the back. Now later on, after the Alamo fell and all of the men here were killed, Santa Anna left some of his troops here, who stayed here for a few weeks. When they found out later on that they had lost the war, well, of course they had to go on back to central Mexico, and they destroyed the outer walls as much as possible so that it wouldn't be used as a fort anymore, and that's why it's much smaller now than it was then.
What is it like for you, a member of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, to look at this building? The plaque out front says this is really the cradle of the Republic of Texas. We do not have enough time here to go into how many different flags and different forms of government you had here in Texas, but to know that you're showing people around a spot which ranks in places in the country among those very few places where an idea started. I was talking to a friend of mine on the plane. We had both seen the Liberty Bell recently, and I mentioned I almost started crying when I saw the Liberty Bell. I just wasn't ready for the experience. What's it like to be a part of this and tell that story to other people?
Oh, it's really a thrill at times. There are people that are here that come. They realize that the Alamo belongs to them too. Hispanic ladies and people from New York and people from Connecticut and people from Pennsylvania. They didn't all have Southern accents here, you know. Mm-hmm. They came from everywhere.
What about tourists from overseas? Do they understand what's happened here? Do you have to tell them the story? What is their reaction?
Many of them are familiar with the story. They've seen John Wayne's movie, so a lot of them come because they've heard of it that way. And a lot of them do like it. They're used to having very historical places in small areas. A lot of theirs had the encroachments of civilization overlaying the original area, like what do you call it? The forest, where Sherwood Forest, where Robin Hood was. It's virtually non-existent anymore.
Well, you go to see the Great Pyramids in Egypt, and there's a 4-lane highway that runs right in front of them. It just destroys the whole image of what you thought you were going to see when you get there.
Well, you sort of have to piece it out in your mind, or get a bird's eye view with a model or a diorama in that sense to get a feel for how it was.
You have a lot of students come through here, a lot of school tours?
Oh, quite a few, yes.
What kind of questions you get asked?
Oh, gee.
A little bit of everything?
A little, yes. Where did Davy Crockett die is one. Where did Travis draw the line?
Where did Davy Crockett die?
Davy Crockett died somewhere between the front door and the gate to the present courtyard.
What was the result of that causes us here 100 and so years later to memorialize this?
This little group of men were, many of them were quite well known where they came from, and it was really a shock to people to realize they had been massacred like they had. There were a lot of educated men that were here, especially for the time. There were 6 doctors and 4 lawyers here, 1 ex-congressman, one nephew of a former president of the United States, James Madison Rose, whose uncle was the framer of the American Constitution.
So this was not just a ragtag bunch of people here.
No, these weren't a bunch of louts. These were quality people. I think the Battle of the Alamo was the one thing that drew the people of Texas together and focused them on what was really happening and what they really needed to do in order to gain have a government.
Remember the Alamo.
And that's it. Remember the Alamo, remember Goliad.
If you're anywhere near San Antonio, don't miss the Alamo. I'm Dennis Daly.